and welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Barjo.
And I'm Junglist. This week is a fine example of the broad spectrum of gaming with, hopefully, something to please everyone.
For shooter fans, the ultra-realistic army simulator, Operation Flashpoint 2.
For sports fans, one of the most enduring and popular franchises of all time, the latest FIFA.
Nice goal!
For fans of the adventure genre, the game which took out Best of Show at this year's E3, Uncharted 2.
But first, can you guess the game for this week?
I don't even know you people. Why are you doing this to me? I'm a bartender, for Christ's sakes.
Answer at the end of the show, but first, it's time for the news to be read by you. That's what we do.
Good game.
EA and 20th Century Fox have jumped on the idea of a Spore movie, roping in Ice Age director Chris Edge to helm the project. CG animation will bring the Maxis game to life, with the script coming from the pens of writers from Disney's The Princess and the Frog. One of the original creators of Counter-Strike, Min Gooseman Lee, has revealed his next PC project entitled Tactical Intervention. Once again delving into the dynamic of terrorist versus counter-terrorists, Tactical Intervention will introduce the random element of AI civilians who inadvertently get caught in crossfire, and guard dogs which players can command. TI will hopefully be released at the end of the year. Valve Studios has hired Defense of the Ancients developer IceFrog to head up a brand new team that will further develop the game, possibly making it a standalone product. As IceFrog wrote on his personal blog, I finally have all the resources needed to do some very exciting stuff, and called it great news for Dota fans. And in more Valve news, president and founder of the company, Gabe Newell, made a flying visit to Australia and confirmed that an original version of Left 4 Dead 2 has been resubmitted to the classification board for a review of its decision to ban the game.
So right now we're pursuing two tracks. The first track is to release the product that we've created, as is in Australia. This is our very strong preference. It's what we're working with the OFLC to see if we can achieve. So we have an appeal of their decision. At the same time, we've also submitted an Australia-specific version of the game, which we think is fully compliant with the OFLC's guidelines for content. So the goal is to guarantee that something will be available on November 17th in Australia, while at the same time pushing to get approval for that to be the full version of the game.
And there will be more about Gabe Newell's visit later in the program.
Good game.
As far as modern combat simulations go, the original Operation Flashpoint by Bohemia Interactive was memorably hardcore.
Ball-bustingly realistic junk. Pop your head out of the grass and you are dead. It was brilliant.
But with Bohemia moving on to make the Arma games, Codemasters are calling all the shots now, and they've toned it down just a notch.
How big is the notch you're talking about?
200 meters northeast. Shit! This is fucked!
In the world of Flashpoint, there's no quick saves, no vehicles that you can magically flip back onto their wheels, no scripted enemy movements to memorize. The only way to get the job done and get out is to plan carefully, execute your tactics flawlessly,
Contact!
and keep your head down.
With a few squad mates at your side, it's you and your guns against the might of the People's Liberation Army of China, who are trying to take over the fictional island of Skira.
0-2, Foxtrot, X-Ray, 2, Yankee, 2.
Go, go, go!
Missions see you traversing large expanses of terrain on foot, scouting for enemy troops, and then coordinating assaults, sometimes with the aid of airstrikes and vehicles.
The island is a massive playing field, just like in the first one, so you can approach the enemy from just about any angle. Spend too long in the open, though, and you're easy prey for a sniper. You need to use tree cover and undulations in the landscape to minimize your exposure to enemy fire.
The first thing that really struck me about this game is the amazing environmental sound. The sound of grass being crunched underfoot as an enemy sneaks up on you, and things like mortar fire in the distance adds a very realistic ambience. I just love the sound of bullets as they whiz past your head, junk. Your squad mates even whisper to each other as you're sneaking around in darkness. It all just really heightens the whole experience.
I liked how vocal your squad mates were, Badge. They call out when they spot or kill an enemy so you know where your threats are.
Support gunner, 200 meters south.
Central Command also keeps in constant contact over shortwave radio to let you know what the changing battle conditions are.
Alpha is reporting possible PLA spotters on the ridge line to the south of your position.
Conserving ammo and being mindful of your squad mates' injuries is really important, and it reminds you that this is more of a sim than an action game.
Wounds treated.
It's really immersive, Badge, and I think we can safely say that Codemasters haven't stuffed up what made the first game so appealing.
It's not a total love fest though, Jung, is it? I mean, the AI is a bit of a mixed bag. For the most part, they're deadly adversaries, but depending on their role, they can become a bit brain dead. For example, in a Jeep, the driver will happily wait as you pick off all the other guys in the Jeep before it's his turn.
There's a few graphical glitches as well, like when you open a door, it'll just stay open and then you pass through it. And some enemies can fall into scenery when they die, which is disturbing.
Little things like that spoil the illusion, which is a bit of a problem for a game that relies on being supremely realistic. I'm guessing there's more than a few patches on the way, Jung.
I hope so, Badge, because if they can fix up those dead spots in the AI, I'd be so much more enthusiastic about this game. I mean, sometimes I would jump in a Jeep and the driver AI wouldn't even realize that we weren't going anywhere. We would just sit there for ages.
Making noises.
Driver, move! Grid, 0, 2, Foxtrot, X-ray, 1, Yankee, 8.
It's frustrating when you know you have to do more things yourself because the AI can't pick up the slack.
Gotta get out of here.
Despite these shortcomings, I still found it a really compelling game, like when you order your squad mates to flank an outpost as a distraction and so you can plant explosives right under their nose. It gives you a real buzz. It's also great how you have so much freedom to complete your objectives. Do you want to use this tank? Go through the undergrowth? Use Mortify to suppress your enemies? There's plenty here to keep you engaged.
The PC version didn't have enough advanced graphical settings for my liking, but it still did look very nice. There are some great effects, like those gorgeous plumes of smoke that rise when things go boom. And there's some crap bits as well, like how bandaging yourself is only represented by a spinning icon.
There is hardcore difficulty, which removes some of the in-game assistance like checkpoints and world markers. And if you're a veteran of the first game, this is where you probably want to jump in right from the start. Having said that, there is something wonderful about going into a mission and not having your whole squad wiped out in the first 5 minutes.
Dagger 1, this is Dagger 1 Bravo. We have the tower. Spotter team has been eliminated. Over.
On normal, your team can respawn from checkpoints, which is hardly realistic, but it's helpful if you want to just ease yourself into the combat. I'm really pleased with this effort from Codemasters, Badge. I think they've retained what was great about the first one while adding some new user-friendly elements for newcomers. I'm giving it a solid 9 rubber chickens.
Yeah, there were times when I was really in love with the simulation here, but it does need those patches pronto. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
My name is Ryan Higgs, and I suffer from an MMORPG. It's in its early stages, so the graphics are still pretty primitive. But over the next 15 or 20 years, it'll become more and more immersive, till I just lose all contact with friends and family and disappear into a fantasy world. I'm doing my best, you know, just trying to live my life one quest at a time.
Good game.
It's that time of year when Antipodean football tragics wake up at 4 a.m. for Champions League matches on TV, staring at some European stadium with thousands of freezing football fans as our own summer sun peeks over the horizon. And we get the latest in the FIFA franchise. We reviewed FIFA 10 on 360.
They've linked well, these two. Dangerous ball. And the ball's in. It's a goal.
It's an exciting time to be a football fan. Big transfers from Moneybags Madrid and Manchester City. Players like Messi, Ronaldo and Cahill constantly amazing us. And FIFA's franchise's new engine gets its chance to shine.
And that has significance.
Jung, why don't we start with what's new in FIFA 10?
There's some big changes, Badge. Free kicks and long shots have been tweaked, so they're hard but possible. In fact, you'll have to take more care with shooting in general. No more tilting the joystick all the way to the side. You're gonna have to find that sweet spot just a little bit to the side. The potential is there to become a deadly FIFA 10 player if you can master those long shots.
Another big addition is the tutorials, and for noobs like me, it's about time, you know? You're still learning FIFA years later. It's one of those games, but the tutorials here are well made, and they teach you everything but the most advanced tricks.
The Russian Premier League is new to the game, and our very own A-League is still in there. And for the top European clubs, you'll still be able to download weekly form updates that change the stats of players. But the biggest news with FIFA 10 is that it's the first football game to feature full 360-degree dribbling, as opposed to just 8 or 16 directions on a giant grid like previous game. This is a game changer, and it'll take a little while to get used to as you run the ball out of bounds a few times, misplace a few passes, but once you master it, you'll find holes in defenses that you wouldn't have found before.
That's a nice pass. That is a fantastic goal.
Defense and goalkeeper AI has been greatly improved. Goalkeepers will now punch the ball, and you can rely more on your defenders for positioning. Best of all, there's less situations where you were holding right, the player was going left, and then the auto switch would make him stop dead in his tracks. Now the auto switch pays attention to which way you're holding, and then will switch to the right character. Clever.
You have to watch stamina more as well, and this makes for a more tactical game. It's less about sprinting down the wing and more about clever 1-2s, pass and move. Every challenge is like a micro game where if you use the right players and bursts of speed rather than just sprinting all the time, you can catch an opponent off guard. Not only is this great for a competitive video game, but it just feels more like a game of football.
There's also a new skilled dribble feature, which is a lot like normal dribbling, and to be honest, we couldn't figure out what it was for. But match tempo has been looked after well. The ref will play advantage, and if the situation is right, you can go for quick free kicks.
Manchester City's free kick. Free kick given, instantly taken. Ball still alive.
I still felt the defense was a little too automated, Badge. All you need to do to tackle is press A. This becomes a problem online with lag because the counter to it is constantly turning away from him, but that takes quick reflexes. And lag and quick reaction gameplay, they don't mix.
Yeah, that's a problem with all EA sports games, really. At least the matchmaking system here will attempt to put you in your own region and at your own skill level.
Moreno. Strong tussle there.
The physical game of muscling players off the ball is still a main feature. It's a direction they've been heading down for 3 years now, and as a result, the two main stats this game understands is strength and speed, without much being said for technical ability. Battles for possession are longer now, during which the ball is never 100% in either player's possession, so if you're the weaker player, get rid of it quick. But this focus on fast, physical gameplay represents a very English style of play, and there's not much to be said for technical ability. If you're used to La Liga or Serie A, you'll probably think the ref is being extremely lenient. Some players do have more responsive dribbling than others, but it needs to be more that technical ability needs to be right up there with speed and strength. A player like Messi shouldn't consistently lose out to a player like Evra when Messi tricks Evra out in real life.
This one goes to those who thought this day would never.
But for everything FIFA 10 does wrong, it does 20 things right. And let's face it, Badge, the only reason we can even talk about this stuff is because everything else in the game is done so well.
And it's worth mentioning the customizable set pieces and the training options in the arena, and manager mode has been revamped as well. So it's not surprising that more FIFA communities and competitions are popping up, and I'm giving this 9 out of 10 rubber chickens, Junglist. And you know, next year's a World Cup year, so this might be your last chance to have a dig at the Italian team.
That's right. Well, Italy, it's a good thing the Olympics aren't on the same time as the World Cup, so you can make full use of your diving team. But seriously, ever since FIFA 08, EA have been dominating Pro Evo, and there's some big improvements in FIFA 10. At this point, it's the greatest football game of all time. I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
President and co-founder of Valve Software, Gabe Newell, has made a flying visit to Australia to meet Aussie gamer Joe WA. We went along to find out how the meeting went.
So I'm here today to talk a little bit about what makes the PC gaming community such a unique enterprise in the entertainment space.
Yes! Do it!
Gamers are creating the games themselves in the PC space. So if you look at Counter-Strike, Counter-Strike's the #1 action game played on the internet today. And it was created by a group of fans. The original game came out of enthusiasts building what they thought an action game should be like. And this wasn't a unique instance. Over and over again, you see this occurring, where fans are creating the entertainment that other fans end up turning into the giants of our industry.
There was a Left 4 Dead 2 boycott, and they flew the boycotters out to Valve. And I was, well, I've been emailing you for a while. Why haven't I been flying out to Valve?
So he sent me mail, sort of pestering me to ask why I hadn't played his mod or looked at his maps.
And he jokingly said, "We are boycotting your campaign." So I said, "Oh, does that mean I have to fly you out here. He said, yeah.
And Joe's response was to put up a website asking the community to help him raise funds in order to fly Eric and I out here to Australia.
So I started the fundraiser as kind of a joke, expecting to make like $6.
And as soon as he put it up, Eric and I sort of turned to each other and said, uh-oh, we're going to Australia. Before we start going into it, I'm curious how you were thinking about the problem of creating the campaign. Are you thinking about a storytelling? Are you thinking about player progression? Are you just taking world reference geometry like the town hall in Brisbane and copying that? I'm just sort of wanting to understand your approach.
Thinking completely about gameplay, pretty much. I just drew the layout and then pretty much tried to fit an environment around it. So, story and whatnot.
So when you're saying that you're thinking about gameplay, are you just thinking primarily about sightlines? Are you thinking about setting up specific encounters?
Well, not so much specific encounters. I'm relying entirely on lighting just to show you where to go.
One nice thing about lighting is that people will understand what they're supposed to do without being consciously aware of it.
Yeah.
Like if you use signage to tell people stuff and then you lie to them in a sign, that doesn't bother them. They just go, well, you're a jerk. But when you're using color, a lot of times they don't realize why they thought it was safe to go there and why they were so surprised that it wasn't a safe place. You know, you've been cueing them all along that, red set against contrasted with this tends to mean this is the place to go to next, and you're not going to run into any zombies. But then when you break it, they just know that all of a sudden something really strange has happened. One of the problems that you have is what people tell you about a level versus what you learn watching them play are very different. And part of the problem is that experienced players don't help you improve your design. I mean, they can sort of work around mistakes that you've made. So it's super useful to find people the less experienced people are the ones that you get the most benefit out of watching play. I think it's good. I think he shows a lot of promise. One of the important things to learn for him is to learn how to take something that's pretty good and using feedback to make it better, because it's at that point where you sort of run out of gas as a creator and have to be fueled by the reactions that people have to the thing that you're making, and that's the piece that I think he really needs to focus on right now.
Gabe is super helpful.
Good game.
Uncharted 2 Among Thieves is the long-awaited sequel starring everyman's everyman, treasure hunter and Lothario Nathan Drake.
Oh, maybe I'm just happy to see you.
Yeah, hello.
Level 1 sees Nathan's life hanging by a thread before it flashes back 4 months, beginning your adventure.
Uncharted 2 is a masterpiece of storytelling, game design, and platforming. It does everything a sequel should do, it does a lot more of it, and it does it better.
You gotta be joking.
This time around, Nate's in search of the fabled Shangri-La and a secret power-giving stone it houses. It's a narrative full of double-crossing, returning characters, excellent writing, voice acting, and humor.
Nice view.
Nen.
No, I was talking about the mountains. Really.
And beautiful cutscenes that go straight into the action without any loading, resolution change, or interruptions.
That didn't attract too much attention.
One of the things the previous game did really well was tell story, and this one does it well too. The way the camera's always got this kind of soft movement to it means that whenever you're taken out of a cutscene, it's not jarring, so you're never really taken out of the game.
Yeah, Badge, gaps in the action are filled much in the same way as Resident Evil 5, with lots of little mini cutscenes where you're given a little bit of control, or at least the illusion of it. It's not, okay, now you can game. It's just a very natural way of moving from point A to point B.
You really like these characters. They're well-rounded, their stories are fleshed out, and you can really identify with all the subtle little looks they give to each other, and you kind of know what they're talking about before they even say it. Also, Drake has this great way of mumbling to himself when he's climbing over rocks.
Hey, check it out. Marco. Fish out of water.
You are so unprofessional.
or just talking to cows.
Hey, Mo. Suppose you speak English, do you?
I've always loved in Uncharted how you'll see something on the screen and then you'll think it yourself or you'll say it out loud and then Nate will say the exact same thing, like this nice parking job.
Nice parking job.
It's a way to bring you closer to the character. He becomes your friend. And special mention should go to Nolan North, the voice behind Nate, because he does a lot to bring this character to life.
You, asswipe. Give me your lighter.
Emily Rose, who voices Elena, is great too, and the motion capturing and acting is all fantastic. It might feel like we're laboring the point a bit, but what we want to get across is that the effort's been put into the story, and that's what makes a great game remarkable.
I'm never crossing a bridge with you again.
We should talk about the action though, Badge.
Indeed! You'll be climbing, running, and shooting like you never climbed, run, and shot before. There's a few increasingly harder puzzles to sort through, but they've got balance right, you know? When you get sick of climbing, you get a bit of action. When you get sick of shooting, you get a bit more climbing or a puzzle. They've mixed up the gameplay all of the way through, like the fantastic Pursuit Force-inspired Jumpathon Jeep Fest. And the helicopter train level. Ah, awesome. Rememberable moments, Jung.
There are a few spots in the game where the area you're fighting in is in a state of movement or decay, such as a building collapsing or a ledge of a cliff falling down, and these are a joy to play in. Sometimes you even forget that you're fighting goons in the middle of all this chaos.
The way the game directs you to your next area rarely leaves you wondering where to go, and if you wait long enough, your companion will help you or a hint will come up.
Come on, mate, we haven't got all day.
There's some really clever platforming here. You know, every jump feels different. It's not a Prince of Persia pole party.
There are so many moving parts to these areas, and the climbing system is impressive. There's more color in the game in general. Areas are larger and there's more to do in them, such as throw propane tanks at enemies and pick up shields off of fallen foes. Badge, there must have been something you didn't like.
Yeah, and it's the same gripe I had with the first one. Goons just take too many bullets. If you're 3 meters away, they'll take 4 or 5 bullets, but if you're 5 meters away, they take 3 billion. And that kind of bugged me, but at least they explain it here with Kevlar and some big, heavy, armor-wearing shotgun dudes that move slowly towards you like a horror film protagonist.
The melee's not bad. There's a simple counter for incoming attacks, and fisticuffs in the middle of a firefight can be exciting.
Hell yeah!
And suicidal. If you lay a few bullets into your enemy first, it'll be a quicker takedown. And generally, you're encouraged to stealth it up. Nate will automatically go into a stealth creep when enemies are nearby, and he'll always use the environment to his advantage, whether it's pulling a guy into a wall,
Night-night.
or simply giving him a nudge into oblivion.
Jung, you know, rolling and dodging in games is often forced upon you, like, you know, roll, shoot, just to dodge enemy fire, but here you roll just because it's cool. After a jump, or when you need to get out of the way of nades that will come towards you and try and displace you if you set up camp too long in a piece of cover. It's always fun shooting them mid-throw, though, because they tend to lose their grip on their own ball of death. And if you're throwing a nade into a group of enemies, it's always best to follow up with a bit of spam so they don't have time to get out of the way.
I found leaping from cover to cover really intuitive too, Badge. I mean, in Gears it was like you'd have to plan your next move, and often the cover just wouldn't be there. Here though, you can leap right into the next wall and reload and keep pushing on. Running and gunning is a little bit better as well. Sometimes you'll just run out there and see how far you can get.
We also spent a bit of time with the open beta multiplayer online, and there's lots of different versus modes and a capture the treasure, and some really cool co-op wave modes as well. It's a really fast-paced multiplayer for a cover shooter, you know, everyone's in cover and they're blind firing and they're climbing all over the place. There's stacks of leveling and unlocks, but you know, even without the multiplayer, this is one of the best games I've ever played, and I even felt something at the end.
You cried, didn't you?
Sif.
You better pray that he is not bluffing.
Uncharted 2 constantly surprises you, and you don't need to play the first to jump into this one. Jung, it's an easy 10 out of 10 from me.
This is going to be one of the great franchises of this hardware generation. I can feel it. There's a great musical score too, and it's accessible. You know, the very easy settings have a bit of auto-aim in them. I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
So, did you guess the game for this week?
It was the character Desmond Miles from Assassin's Creed, the poor bloke strapped to the Animus machine.
Voice acted by none other than Nolan North, who's now better known as Nathan Drake from Uncharted, and a billion other video game characters.
What do you want me to do? Teach you how to mix a martini?
And that brings us to the end of another episode.
Yes, next week, Kingdom Hearts is one of those games that inspires devotion in its players. But will they feel the same about the latest? Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2.
Jack Black plays a rock and roll roadie in Tim Schafer's new game, Brutal Legend.
So, you want to help me fight demons and stuff? Yeah.
Plus, we settle the argument, well, for this year anyway, FIFA or Pro Evo.
Check us out on Facebook or Twitter, or drop by the most popular ABC TV online forum in existence, ours. Till next time, gamers, Junglist out.
Barjo out. Yeah, watch out for it.
You all right?
He's fine.